We need to now cut across to Shavan Sen, who's joining us live from Kyiv, reporting live from Ukraine, the only Indian channel to get you a sense of what's going on there. Shavan, over to you. Tell us what you've picked up the last few minutes. You're reporting live from Kyiv. The situation is extremely tense at the moment, given Putin's announcement, and how, like no other channel is reporting, but also showing how counterattacks have come in from the Ukrainian side as well, as far as those disputed regions are concerned. What's going on there in Kyiv?
Well, it's fine, Krithween. We are the only Indian channel right now in Kyiv to get a sense of what's really happening at the epicenter of this conflict between Russia and Ukraine. We've landed in Kyiv and we would be traveling across Ukraine to get our viewers the real sense of this conflict just a day after that aggressive speech that was made by Russian President Vladimir Putin about recognizing two enclaves, Donetsk and Luhansk, as independent. So what is the repercussion going to be like? Whether at all this provocative move by the Russians, will it get some sort of a reaction from the Ukrainians? We'll get you a sense of what's really happening. I'm right now broadcasting from just outside Kyiv's international airport. As you can get a sense here, it is certainly at this point in time a little calm, but it appears to be the lull before the storm. Inside the airport, in fact, Krithween, there wasn't really a lot of people who were there. But in fact, a short while ago, we were given to understand that a lot of Indian students who would be evacuated today, in fact, we weren't actually allowed right now to go to the departure area to just get a sense of how many Indian students are leaving. But in fact, we had taken the Air India flight. There were hardly any people in that particular aircraft, but we were given to understand that Boeing was supposed to take back a lot of Indians. Because remember, of the 4.6 crore Ukrainians, there are a large number of Indians who are here. And with the Indian embassy now, with that particular advisory, a lot of Indian students would be going out. So that's the departure terminal, as you can see. And a lot of the Indian students, some I'm given to understand, are already waving. Perhaps these are the Indian students who would be. You can just take a look at it. A lot of people already there, but a couple of people who have basically come in right now. Just to get you a sense of the evacuation that is basically taking place. So while the situation at this point in time appears to be, there is an eerie silence right now, at least in Kyiv. What's it going to be like in the other districts is something that we'll have to perhaps wait and watch. Because remember, this has just happened barely about a little more than 24 hours since what we have heard the Russian president had to say about issuing a decree. But the fact of the matter is that many would say, at least here in Ukraine, that they were expecting this to come. This was work in progress. You in fact had the Russian Duma starting that particular legislation of recognizing the independence of Donetsk and Luhansk, and you've already seen the shelling that's basically taking place in that region. Whether at all there is going to be some sort of a repercussion, some sort of a retaliatory move from the Ukrainian authorities is something that we'll have to wait and watch, because that's going to be the key. Whether at all there is going to be some sort of an invasion, as what the United States of America has been indicating that the invasion has already begun, is what one minister of the British cabinet had to indicate a short while back. But here, at least in Kyiv, while Krithween, we've really not moved around. So what we'll try and do for our viewers is to just get the real sense. Right now, what you see is barely about few cars that are parked here at the Kyiv International Airport. Very few people inside the airport. I could barely spot a handful, about a dozen people. We've seen some locals, Ukrainians who are moving to another city, since we were not allowed to film inside. What we just essentially did, just to get a sense that some of them were saying that they're moving to another city. The western side, however, is still considered to be an area, Krithween, which appears to be a little safer than, say, for example, the eastern Ukraine side, the northern side, as well as the southern side. So western Ukraine still appears to be a little safer than the other areas. So what we'll try and do, Krithween, in a short while from now, because we've just stepped out, we're getting our equipments ready. But what we can assure all our viewers who are watching right now, unlike other media networks who've taken positions, we in Republic Media Network will get you all the sides, a 360-degree understanding of this real conflict. Because if at all a war really breaks out, remember this perhaps is going to be one of the biggest wars one has seen since World War II. So whether at all this World War III is actually going to take place or not is one will have to certainly wait and watch, because the global world, remember, will have a direct repercussion or direct impact of what really transpires between Ukraine and Russia.
Absolutely. You know, Shravan, we'll of course give you some time to move around, and we want a word from some of those students as well, because we've been putting out those pictures of hundreds of students at the Kyiv airport as they will be taking flights back to India, because the Indian officials have made it very clear that they must come back on a temporary basis instead of waiting for universities to come out with an official directive on what's going to be happening the coming few months as for the Indian students that are concerned. But like you said, Republic is not going to be biased. History has a long bound Ukraine and Russia. As I explained why some Russians and a minority of Ukrainians believe the former Soviet Republic should never join the West military alliance. So you have the West playing a very active role as per what's happening in Ukraine, Shravan. Anything that you've been able to pick up with the interaction you've had so far during your flight, during your journey, on what people think is going on there? Kyiv has been extremely peaceful the last few days, but what's going to happen next? What do you think is going on?
Well, in fact, Christine, if you ask me, my conversation with one Indian who was inside the aircraft, the same flight that we took together, and he's been here for almost 30 years. In fact, I'll try and get a sense from him in a short while from now. An Indian who's been here for 30 years, he's been working here as a software engineer, has understood what's the real sense. He also speaks the native language here. Now, his perspective is that as far as this aggression that has been shown by the Russians, this hasn't really come down well with the Ukrainians. But here in Ukraine, they say that this is a design that they were expecting for a very long time. Though it doesn't really come across as a surprise as far as the Ukrainians are concerned. They were saying that, look here, what has really happened in Donetsk and Luhansk is part of their larger design. The larger design is that you already had the Russian Duma passing a legislation, and perhaps in the month of January itself, it was almost decided that Russia essentially will take the step of recognizing the independence of Donetsk